Good evening, and welcome. Welcome to a Wisdom Jam that we are here. I think we are live, and I'm very happy to welcome Manish. Namaste, Manish. Welcome.
Namaste, Abhishek. Very happy to be in conversation with you on this platform.
Yes, so glad. Manish is a dear friend, a dear brother, a co-traveler, so many things. So I'm really looking forward to the jam, Manish. मैं सोच रहा हूँ एक introduction से ही start करूँ. Let me introduce you in a more formal way, and then we can hop into hop into metaphors. I mean, I've already started using a metaphor saying co-traveler है, तो कोई तो journey होगी. कहीं travel कर रहे हैं. We are co-travelers. Uh, Manish is a poet, a life coach, and a facilitator of societal transformation. Manish has worked with Samaj Sarkar Bazaar in very interesting configurations. Right now, he's also a part of the Presencing Institute as a co-director of Social Presencing Theatre. So that gives you, Manish, I'm getting an opportunity and a wide canvas to work with a lot of leaders. The interesting side is Manish is also an artist at heart and an artist in being. So he integrates poetry, contemplative art, systems thinking, all of it together to really create some change, transformation across societal divides. Deep belief that poetry and art can uncover humanity's deepest longings and heal our collective wounds, offer new possibilities. So, wow, a beautiful artistic intro. So Manish, jam format तो just jam होता है, it can go where it goes. So जब मैं आपका कलाकार वाला जो intro पढ़ रहा था, so I think one of the first things that came to me was कला itself, art itself. You know, कहाँ पे what is art and what is not art? I think मतलब वो कलाकार से मुझे यार तेरा सुपरस्टार देसी कलाकार वो गाना याद आ गया. जो आई थिंक हनी सिंह का गाना है. And art is such a wide spectrum, and I'm curious because I'm also wondering कि art कहीं पे यूटिलाइज किया जाता है, कहीं पे आर्ट फॉर आर्ट सेक होता है. So just curious to get us started, maybe your relationship with art, your relationship with what calls out to you as an artist. Is art applied somewhere, the right space for art? Scene kya hai art ka in the work of change or in the work of inner world expression?
That's a big question, Avi. Part of me doesn't feel qualified to answer that because I don't understand the world of art as a professional. But it's recently I started settling in with the identity of artist, saying that I'm a poet and I am a theater artist, and I started settling in that. And when I settle in, I feel that everyone is an artist. Everyone. So what is art? In a way, I wonder, and I think it is a deep, authentic expression of our heart that we find mediums to express. और मीडियम्स हैं, किसी के लिए शब्द हैं तो वो पोएट है, किसी के लिए कलर्स हैं तो वो पेंटर है, किसी के लिए म्यूजिक है, किसी के लिए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, एक्टिविज्म है, व्हाट यू कॉल आर्टिविस्ट. आई लव दैट. किसी के लिए बेड है, सो बेड मेकिंग एज अ वर्क ऑफ आर्ट. So I think I started relating that जब हम when we relate to that expression within and find a way to express, so and it is met by others. It's met by the audience, it's met by others in some way, then it kind of is what the world needs. World needs that expression. So उस तरीके से मुझे I started relating to that, and there is one person that comes to me when the moment you ask that question, what is art? Because I don't know, but I rely on one video I watched long back by Joseph Campbell. And in that, he's asking what is art. He's teaching a class, and he says that art is when there is an aesthetic arrest. And I like that. There is an aesthetic arrest. You listen to something, you watch something, and you feel, so something in you completes in that moment. It could be an organization, it could be a conversation, which there is an aesthetic arrest, I feel. And he says that if you're not doing that, then either you're selling too much, and that may be propaganda. Either you're pushing people into something that's propaganda, or you're pulling into something that is pornography. Joseph Campbell, right? So, so pure art, he says, is between that. So I don't know what is pure art, but I just like to be just aware of that, boundary. Between that is the playing field. So it doesn't have a purpose other than expressing itself sometimes.
Beautiful. Between propaganda and pornography is a field of authentic self-expression.
I mean, that is one perspective from.
No, but love how you're saying even bed making could be an art, and our own internal expression is also art. I think मेरे लिए ये भी है कि अगर बहुत ही बेतुका हो जाए, if it becomes too irrelevant, where it loses its basic truth value itself, then I really start wondering if that is art. And again, linking also to what we are talking about, metaphors, right? If the metaphors speak to reality, they bring that aesthetic arrest. They ring, they resonate, they start traveling. If it gets too far and then it's justified as artistic expression, then I find it a little problematic. So, and again, I'm referring to the millennial phenomenon of the blank verse. मैं blank verse लिख दिया, मैंने कुछ लिख दिया, और फिर मैं उसको बहुत ही edge लगता है मुझे ये on where art. And I'm just curious, even as I'm speaking, why am I interested in this question? Because art is political. I feel the act of calling something art, the act of expression is also political. Plus the internal processes of the artist. The moment I put this out, I want to be appreciated, I want to be recognized, and I don't know, with my or our, I can very with our generation, with millennials and early and more so late millennials. मतलब वो haiku भी ऐसे spontaneous haiku, two friends, a red and a black, a frozen screen, wisdom. भाई मतलब ये तो हाइकू लिख दिया. So I'm also mindful that and I think मेरे लिए the edge on that is that there has to be something about art which has some element of truth and authenticity, right? Which grips the heart, right? And rings. I think that's where and to me, that way, then Honey Singh is more artistic because there is some reverberating quality in Honey Singh's songs which is traveling. Then the haiku that I kind of suddenly spin from thin air and want it, like tarasha nahi, bina tarashe, bina mehnat kiye, art bahar beh raha hai, explosion ho gaya hai sab cheezon ka. To pata nahi, there is some part of me that feels a little troubled also when it comes to art. That it being democratized is great, but at the same time, lazy art pretending to be art, or not thought through metaphors being thrown around. I think there is something about that lazy.
There is definitely something, and it's so difficult to comment on that also, because
अच्छी भी है,
ये नहीं पता कि किसकी क्या journey है, ये पता नहीं, क्योंकि sometimes simplest things come from a lot of depth. So it's difficult for me to comment, though you can get a sense sometimes. So गहराई जो है ना, I mean, English is okay here, right? So so जो गहराई है, the depth जो अपने दर्द से आती है, या जहां से मेटाफोर इमर्ज होते हैं उस गहराई से, वो उसका एहसास हो जाता है. You get a sense of that. Even if it is just a very, very simple line, you get a sense of that. And I think, so it's difficult to comment कि कौन कहाँ से आ रहा है. But I think in aesthetic arrest, the way I understood is that there is what is beauty, I mean, when you say art, there is also the parallel conversation beauty, or I relate to also this Sundaram, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. So Sundaram, what is beauty? And I think somewhere there is a sense of coherence. Yeah, there is a sense of coherence. So even in, like, when I said bed making or flower making, I mean the collage making or arranging flowers, all these are art forms, because there is a sense of space, there is a sense of aesthetic, there's a sense of me vis-a-vis that space, and there is a deeper realization of something. And I think that I understand that. I think so that is each one to their own journey, I feel. uh, but you can sense sometimes जब कोई क्लिक होता है ना, किस लेवल पे क्लिक हो रहा है, वो क्लिक एस्थेटिक अरेस्ट को हम क्लिक बोल सकते हैं. When you look at something, when you say somebody said something, click to the context. So I like what you're saying because it is relevant to where we are. मेरे दर्द से तेरा दर्द जुड़ा, उसके जरिए कुछ तो कंप्लीट हुआ, कुछ तो कनेक्शन हुआ. That's why honey thing is relevant, right?
Yeah. I'm almost sensing, Manish, that reality has many layers.
Yeah.
And the deeper I penetrate and create from, the more it reverberates, right? Like some of the most lasting art perhaps was able to penetrate into very deep layers of reality and speak from there. That it still kind of holds a freshness. Right? वो मधुशाला मुझे कविता याद आई हरिवंश राय बच्चन की. वो आप वो it captures some very deep fundamental truths in ways which resonate. So I think as an artist, I'm curious about how you look at reality. Do you see it as layers? Do you see it as something deep to be penetrated? What is your ontological worldview? Like reality आपके लिए क्या है? किन स्तरों पे चल रही होती है? I know you also have a Jungian kind of a tilt, so dreams, and so there's so much going on, right? So just curious, reality क्या है आपके लिए? आप किस तरह से देखते हो पूरे reality scape?
Wow, that's such a powerful question. I mean, yeah, I knew that coming here on this conversation will be full of learning because the questions will help you explore things which you don't otherwise. So for me, like let me take an example. When I'm writing a poem, first there is a phenomena, right? Phenomena happening around you, whatever that is. So say migrant crisis, or say pandemic, and or say a conflict with your loved one, or a loving moment with your child, or a flower. So whatever the phenomena, there is something that you meet the phenomena, right? You meet the phenomena with your six senses. I mean, 5+1 kind of. So
what is the +1?
I mean, even memory in Eastern world, we say sixth sense. Even the memory, the mind itself is a sensing organ, right? So हम अपने, let's take 5 senses से we experience life, right? Phenomena, we experience the phenomena, and then something touches that, so it evokes something. Or it is unsettles. So I live with that unsettlement for a moment. So I'm still with the phenomena, and then that's a beautiful way you put it, that there are different layers of the phenomena. There is something that happened which is very physical, very descriptive, and it might show me a pattern, but I'm not thinking all this. It invokes something from within. It invokes an image. It may invoke a memory. It may invoke a song, a sound, a shape, a body shape. It invokes something which brings coherence of some kind. तो वैसा है कुछ. Or once I engage with that cognition, once I engage, I'm thinking, this is what. Then it opens and reveals a deep pattern. Or just while I'm engaging, it starts revealing. Or sometimes after. So sometimes वो शुरू में ही मिल जाता है, and then I find a petal of a flower, then I find the whole flower later. Sometimes I just found the smell and I keep hunting for it. That hunt itself is a journey. And sometimes the whole flower comes and then I drop in. So in some way, you get something, and that kind of makes it okay in one way, in an easy way. Like it makes okay whatever the experience, whatever the restlessness and unsettlement, it puts into a larger context, which is where some kind of an archetypal context, it places it there. Am I making sense or going to?
Yeah. Yeah, literally. You want to continue sharing? I can reflect back what I heard you say.
Yes, do that. Yeah, that is.
What I heard you say is कि एक सतह के तौर पे there is a phenomenon, and then when it's allowed to be experienced, rather than उसको कुछ करने के पहले वो हमें कुछ करता है, and then suddenly it either reveals itself or you dig it, but in doing that whole process, it gets located into something more universal, something more archetypical at a different depth or a different level of being, right? A different level of reality. I think that's how I was hearing you. And the
Exactly.
artist's journey of taking something very mundane or very kind of just happening, fleeting phenomenon, following it straight all the way to the profound, right? Or to something beyond. I think that was what I was hearing
Hmm.
as the journey.
बिल्कुल
That
सही.
capture?
I think definitely. And layers में it's a good question you're asking. I'm reflecting that are there layers to a reality? Maybe there are. Maybe there are layers, and maybe even what I'm saying is it's not layers are not necessarily this is profound or that is not. That's what I want to like in this moment. Sometimes staying like I have I left my books downstairs, but one of the poem is 100.4 degree Fahrenheit. That's a pure description of fever, right? And it's a very descriptive, and but it moves from description into it just moves. I that a volcano between my legs. And I'm experiencing heat, and heat. Then I borrow from the ancestral descriptions and images to describe. I'm experiencing I was just writing it while lying in fever, and I'm bringing things, and it kind of and then it comes to a sense of acceptance that I'm sitting like a monk in a cathedral watching the firefighters flying above. So somewhere I go deep down through that whole poetic journey. I go deep down within myself in that unrest, in that feverish night, and experience the fever outside. So it's a kind of a journey of vipassana, you can say, with creative tools. So तो वो बोरो मैंने किया मतलब आज वो क्योंकि वो फेनोमेना एक्सपीरियंस हो रहा है सेंस तो वो सेंसेशन पे भी है वो भी अपने आप में ब्यूटीफुल है जस्ट नोटिसिंग दैट डिस्क्राइबिंग दैट एंड स्टेइंग विद दैट एंड समटाइम्स इट गोज बियॉन्ड दैट एंड बोरोस थिंग्स फ्रॉम समवेयर मे बी शायद वो करने में इट बिकम्स यूनिवर्सल in doing so. Sorry, I went on.
There is some innocence there, Manish, I think, in being able to do that without the innocence. And I'll share why I'm saying that, because at times one is I love what you said, that don't judge. There's no need to judge one layer as more profound and the other as profane, because they're all legitimate where they are. I also feel as a quote unquote corrupted artist who's trying to extract and be utilitarian and convert things into art. A lot of times I feel that the absence of innocence keeps me from making something artistic, because I want it to go somewhere. And I'm just reflecting on my own kind of processes. Like, I definitely have an artistic side. I also have a side that's kind of in some ways corrupted, compromised, or I wonder utilitarian, extractive. किसी को कुछ आर्ट बनाना जो एंड देन फिर उससे जो निकलता है वो उस तरह का एक्सूबरेंट, कभी कभी वो निकल जाता है, कभी कभी वो जबरदस्ती हो जाती है. एंड आई थिंक वो स्ट्रगल आई थिंक इज समथिंग आई एम गेटिंग इन टच विद, एज यू आर सेइंग. And it's linked to what you said earlier, कि not valuing one reality over the other. क्योंकि utilitarian में वो झगड़ा है कि भाई I'll take something from one level and इसको मैं deep लेके जाऊंगा तब poetry आएगी, और the whole churn. And I think I'm just hearing you say it as a more सहज, एक सहजता के साथ ही flow. You followed your stream of consciousness. I think that's what I am picking up.
Wow, that sounds great.
You just followed your stream of consciousness without like इसको मार के पोएम, इसको ठोक पीट के पोएम बनाएंगे, वो नहीं हुआ. I felt like you just followed and the imagery emerged, right?
सही बात है. And I think पता नहीं किसने कहा है, but some of us attribute to Peter Senge, but I don't know, it's way beyond that. Somebody has said that what's deeply personal is deeply universal. So
what is deeply personal is deeply universal.
जैसे अपने अनुभव को हम नोटिस करते हैं, ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, और फिर उसको जो भी आकार दें. I think I'm now realizing that words is just one form, and many, and sometimes that's where the metaphors, which the topic comes in, because those are thought structures in some way, or those are conscious structures which have been there for long. So कभी कभी we natural, it's natural जब हम complex phenomena experience कर रहे हैं खुद पे, तो we will hit upon them, right? And as we find that, and as we make that visible for ourselves, first of all, always for me it is very personal. I'm trying to make sense of my own phenomena, my own experience, and in doing so, sometimes it kind of then I don't know why it seeks expression. I don't know that. मतलब पहले तो वो notebook में होता है. Some stage I don't know what is that. Is it an ego trip of an artist, or it is just a longing of a seed to become a flower and meet the bee? Again, I'm using a metaphor. So there is something that it wants to go out, and in doing so, there is a meeting part when somebody says, "I find resonance. Oh wow, this is my story too." Then it becomes, then I belong. Maybe there's a journey of belonging. हम सब we long to belong, right? That's the deepest belonging. We long to belong. जहां मेरा अनुभव अभिषेक का अनुभव सिमिलर हो गया, तो एक मैं अकेला नहीं रहा. तो बड़ी हम्बल लेवल वो है. और कुछ लोग दूसरे तरीके से करते हैं, शायद इसीलिए हम गेस्ट बुलाते हैं, खाना खिलाते हैं. वो भी सेमी फेनोमेना है मेरे ख्याल से. वो
it's almost like the oneness that gets created when that art is experienced between the artist and the recipient, right? Like you said, guest को भी घर पे बुलाते हैं, तो एक connection, an expression, a connection. I think that kind of yeah. When you spoke about metaphors, Manish, you in passing mentioned that they have always been there or something like that you mentioned, and I was curious, what did you mean by that? They have always been there, and we also mentioned archetypes. So I'm just curious to follow.
Yeah. I think that's whether I mean the world of Jungian world of archetypes. I kind of sometimes refer to that. So archetypes, arche is old and type is a pattern, right? So they're essentially old patterns that we live by, and metaphors, symbols, all these patterns, they're there somewhere. As we go, we found that very similar patterns, घूम फिर के वहीं आ जाता है. Somebody said there are only 7 stories. There are only 7. There is a tragedy, there is a comedy. I mean, Aristotle said there are only 2 stories, tragedy and comedy. Somewhere these are the patterns we have, and many variations of that. तो कई बार तो वो हैं, तो कई बार जब हम when we are reflecting, they appear, and they are quite powerful way of communication, I realize. And they are always there. You started with Co-Traveler, what a powerful, and then you talked about Madhushala, that's about a journey to a tavern. तो अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब मैं तुझको बतलाता हूँ, एक पंथ तू लिए चला चल पहुंच जाएगा मधुशाला. तो वो एक 4 लाइनें, मतलब मुझे इतना, वो जब भी लॉस्ट हो रहे हैं तो हाँ ठीक है, एक रास्ता ले ले चलते रहे, पहुंच जाएगा. सो समवेयर दैट लॉन्गिंग को आइडेंटिफाई कर लेता है उस जर्नी में. और वो जर्नी कितनों ने ली है हमसे पहले, उन्होंने उस पर चिंतन किया है, कितनों ने उसको खोदा खादा है. तो वो अगर ये लाइन मिल गई, इसमें एक मेटाफोर मिल गया ट्रैवल का और सर्च का, और वो मेटाफोर कभी हमें किसी और रास्ते से मिल जाता है, सभी रास्ते भगवान के घर जाते हैं टाइप्स, वो कहीं ना कहीं से हमें वो पैटर्न मिल जाता है. और एक सेंस ऑफ मुझे पता नहीं एग्जैक्टली क्या होता है अभी, बट आई थिंक यू मे हैव अ सेंस. बट जब हमें मेटाफोर ऐसा कोई मिलता है, ऐसा सिंबलिज्म मिलता है, तो एक रेस्ट भी आ जाता है कि आई एम रेस्टिंग इन द विजडम ऑफ मेनी जनरेशंस. एंड तब मैं थोड़ा डीप एक्सप्लोर, उसके नुएंसेस एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं, ऑफ कोर्स फिर हम कर सकते हैं. तो मेटाफोर इज लाइक वो पेटल ऑफ अ फ्लावर ना, एक बार वो मिल गया तो फ्लावर भी मिल जाएगा काइंड्स.
एक पकड़ शब्दों से रियलिटी के एक लेयर पे पकड़ आ जाती है, बट मेटाफर से एक डीपर लेयर पे शायद पकड़ आ जाती है, right? Like you're able to grip something deeper and then kind of explore that. You can open that up, right? It's almost like that for me.
और जैसे stories are metaphorical, right? So they're so beautiful to talk आई मीन कई बार जब हम फैक्ट्स और डेटा, वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसकी भी जबरदस्त वैल्यू है, मेटाफोर डीपर स्टोरी रिवील करना शुरू कर देता है। वो स्टोरी के इंटरकनेक्शन, उसकी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी। तो कई बार जब हम इसमें भी यूज करते हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल डेवलपमेंट वगैरह में, विच यू ऑल्सो यूज इट so well, that sometimes rather than reporting what I saw, sharing what I feel, and maybe if an image is showing up, sharing that image, and then people can work with that because it's live. Metaphors are live, and that belong to everyone. That belongs to everyone. There's a shared ownership because it's so archetypal that there's a shared ownership. So अगर वो आ गया तो then people can work with that. उसमें कुछ जोड़ सकते हैं, तोड़ सकते हैं, उसको बढ़ा सकते हैं, उसको घटा सकते हैं, and it's such a co-creative. It's so co-creative. Yeah,
definitely. I think मीनिंग को मेटाफर्स कलेक्टिवाइज कर देते हैं एक तरह से,
yeah.
और फिर उसके साथ वी कैन टॉय अराउंड विद दैट. Though also I feel the choice of metaphor, isn't it a little political in the sense that when I say Manish is a co-traveler, for example, vis-a-vis I say Manish is the opening batsman and I've always been the non-striker who's supporting him, for example, versus I say Manish is the poet and I am the printer who prints the books of the poet, for example. So I'm saying the choice of metaphor itself is such a defining feature, right?
नहीं, सही कह रहे हो. I am also thinking about that. And you said earlier also about art and politics, and I understand that what you're saying. Every art and every such thing is political. Every creative engagement is political because there is a choice there and there is a definition. I think I don't know, but उसमें एक permission भी होती है to explore, because almost we are saying like Manish is like a opening batsman, even if like word नहीं यूज किया, बट जैसे कि मनीष ये है तो मैं ये हूं, तो आपने रिलेशनशिप को डिफाइन करने के लिए मेटाफोर को यूज किया, एक कहीं से एक कोई स्टोरी पैटर्न को यूज किया. नाउ आई में से हाँ वो तो है, लेकिन मैं वो वाला बैट्समैन हूं जो आता नहीं है टाइम पे, राइट? सो देयर इज अ परमिशन ऑफ टू प्ले. Yeah, but it can be, you're right, I didn't think that way कि it can be कई बार इसमें ना एक इसका जजमेंट सा हो सकते हैं ना, इसमें जजमेंट्स भी होते हैं जो कि
बिल्कुल. But like I like what you said कि एक बार एक मेटाफर डाल दिया, then we can play around with that metaphor, saying अच्छा हाँ मैं ओपनिंग बैट्समैन हूँ, ये नॉन स्ट्राइकर है, पर हमने बहुत इनिंग्स खेली और बहुत रन भागे हैं दोनों. You can play around once a metaphor. It's almost like, to me, it's like you're throwing an anchor into a deeper reality. Once that anchor is collectivized, then you can play around with it.
But ये पॉइंट बहुत अच्छा है. कलेक्टिवाइज कब होता है? What's your thinking? कि आपने फेंका बट वो कलेक्टिवाइज कब होता है?
जब वो किसी और को भी रिंग हुआ और वो खेलने के लिए तैयार हो गया हो. मेटाफर उसी मेटाफर में when someone walks into the metaphor, right? Like
beautiful.
It's an opening, and if others don't walk into the opening, it is a sterile opening. But when the metaphor opens and others walk into it, then you are in a new world where you can play a different game, right? Like then you're in the metaphor world where you can play with each other, right? Something like that.
बहुत सही बात है. I think I love that you walk into it. In fact, the audience, the people we are with also are able to see themselves in that story or in that symbol or in that metaphor that we are using. वो अपना मेरा वाला ब्लू ढूंढ लेते हैं, राइट? तो फिर वो एंगेजिंग हो जाएगा, शायद वो कलेक्टिवाइज हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल. And then the richness of it, the layers can be explored, right? I think for me again, this deeper layer of collective reality जो शब्दों के परे है, वो मेटाफर्स के थ्रू आर्टिकुलेट, क्योंकि उस पे काम करने के पहले तो कम से कम चल क्या रहा है वो तो आर्टिकुलेट हो ना. I think so for me I think a metaphor does a great service at multiple levels.
At
the first level, I think just inviting people into a collective game or a collective
literally we are working with the game metaphor. So
पहले वो collective game में ले आए. Thanks for bringing awareness to that. Second is painting the current reality, right? Because once a metaphor is there, you can flesh out the deeper layers of reality using that metaphor, right? And then to work with it is like the third level of it. Like metaphor allows all these three things to happen, right?
बिल्कुल सही है. एंड मैं ये सोच रहा था, जस्ट केम टू माय अवेयरनेस टू आल्सो, लाइक इफ एज फैसिलिटेटर और आर्टिस्ट्स और activists in these spaces, to pay attention to what you said, because in that metaphor, what is the structure of this metaphor? What is the power dynamic already built in, right? What is the design here? Like I'm bringing little social presencing theater awareness that each social system has a body, and body has some rhythm, some structure. So stadium, for example, we're in a stadium with a few performers and a lot of witnesses. And maybe that's why this metaphor actually, to I feel, we don't find him, it finds us at times when we are, right? When we find it, people find it also. Like they use it, that using a kind of situation, but often as a conversation mein nikal ke aata hai, it finds us. It found us because we are in a similar situation. Like I am in my awareness, two of us are here, like playing, and there's a sense of that there are more people watching, right? That's what the metaphor is here. And then there are layers to it. Then the question is, where else has this happened? This has happened time and again. This social sculpture has been present. This design has been present, and what goes with that design? What is the power dynamic? What is the built-in violence, if I may say? What is engagement and disengagement? And so just being aware of that is important. It can be liberating and limiting, which I liked when you said that. Is it defining? Is it political? Yes, it is. It is. Somehow, I don't know, as I'm talking to you, Athens is coming to my mind. I don't know why, but it's just coming. Those stages, those Greek stadiums, Gladiator is coming to my mind. So I'm just aware that this stream of consciousness is flowing here, and I don't need to dive into and do something, but just being aware that this is going on. Maybe there is something more here. So.
Interesting. And I've in our conversation I've many times seen कि जब ये images float होती है, जैसे Athens और Gladiator float हो रहा है, तो मजा तब आता है जब हम उन images को थोड़ा curious होके देखते हैं कि यार ये क्या है, यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, right? Like is it fun to kind of follow the image on its way to saying, oh, so this is what it's revealing in my inner structure. Forget the world's inner structure, right? It's like a window into my psyche as well, right? Like these floating images and flirts, jisko Anil Mendel says flirts.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yes, flirts.
Yeah. It's a window into some deeper unconscious processes of our own as well, right?
बिल्कुल सही बात है, हमारी खुद की है to start with, right? Good catch. Yeah, just being aware.
Yeah. So are we two gladiators in Athens or because Athens, Athena is also the goddess of wisdom, by the way. So wisdom jam hai, to Athena to goddess of wisdom.
Yeah, Athena इसलिए आई होगी. सही बात है.
Wisdom evokes Athena.
I think there is the places, the Athens are the places that make visible a phenomena to a larger collective. These are engaging spaces. So maybe that's what you're doing. These jams spaces making visible. There is also, I'm also aware of the boundary that keeps Awam from entering. And I don't know what that means, but just I think मेरी attention उधर है. उससे safety भी है, the safety with you, but उससे एक distance भी है. So just being aware.
बिल्कुल. I think cameras off होना और हम speaker mode में होना in this moment with both of us in the gallery. An invisible set of square boxes, if you have them displayed or undisplayed, but just a number like 8 people, out of which 2 is us. There are 6 more people sitting somewhere which are not visible to us.
Yeah.
And therefore the whole stadium where we're in the stadium and we're being watched, right? Getting in touch with some of those.
No, सही बात है. Just I think being aware. और दूसरा चीज मुझे इससे related ये भी आया, unless you're going in some chain.
No, go ahead.
एक क्या आया कि when you mentioned about the defining part, I started thinking that is there something related to what world we are bringing these metaphors? Like there could be mechanical metaphors. Sometimes I find them a lot in the business world. Like we are like a car, or we are. और एक जगह बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग था कि ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक साइकिल है जो मैं बहुत तेज चला रहा हूँ लेकिन वो स्टैंड पे खड़ी है. इंटरेस्टिंग. कहीं मूव नहीं कर रही है, मैं चलाए जा रहा हूँ. तो तो those kind of mechanical
Well-oiled machinery भी बोलते हैं, we want our org to be a well-oiled
वेल
machine.
ऑयल्ड मशीन की, तो वो मेटाफोर हमें कहाँ तक लेके जाएगा, उसका डिफाइनिंग दायरा क्या है?
लिमिट क्या है उसकी? हाँ,
हाँ, और देयर आर नेचर, जैसे मेरे नेचर से इमर्ज होते हैं कई बार, तो उसका कुछ है, कुछ आर्केटाइपल रिलीजियस काइंड ऑफ mythical Athenae. तो just being just does that have a, like, what is your experience with it? You also you are amazing with paying attention to metaphor and the structure below. So what's your kind of sense?
कि किस कॉन्शियसनेस से मेटाफर उभर रहा है, राइट? लाइक metaphors rise from certain places and then they grip the collective consciousness. Just getting in touch with, हाँ, like you said, कोई machine world consciousness है, कोई living world consciousness से है, कोई religious world consciousness से है, और वहां से निकला हुआ मेटाफर कभी कभी लोगों को ग्रिप कर लेता है ना, वायरस की तरह भी ग्रिप कर लेता है कि हाँ यही है, दिस इज अ सिंबल फॉर अस. सो but I'm still also stuck with what you said, कि metaphors find us, not only we find metaphors. It's almost like they have an agency of their own. They're floating around and they show up when there is an openness for them to be received, right? Is that something like that?
Right. I think it's a bit like dreams now. I'm going to that word. Dreams are also like dreams. We don't manufacture them, but in a way we manufacture everything, but we don't manufacture them per se. They show up from the phenomena we are experiencing within and outside. They show up to complete something or highlight something or disrupt something. They have a functionality and they just show up. So मुझे लगता है कई बार ये symbols भी हमें बोलते बोलते मिल जाते हैं ना, मतलब कई बार आप सोचते हैं उसके बारे में, ये कैसा है, तो दैट इज ऑल्सो फाइन, ये कैसा है, तो वो लाइब्रेरी से बुक निकालते हैं, कई बार बुक हमारे सर पे गिरती है धाड़.
राइट.
ये ले, तो बिट ऑफ दैट आई थिंक आई फील, एंड मे बी बिकॉज वो हमारे कॉन्शियसनेस में है कहीं, वो फेनोमेना, और उस फेनोमेना का जो वो स्ट्रक्चर है ना, वो स्ट्रक्चर हमें कहीं मिल जाता है, इन द कॉन्वर्जेशन आ जाता है. ऐसा ये बोलना चाह रहा था मैं when I said
yeah. Then I'm wondering, as a change practitioner, or as change practitioners who are listening in also, one is that I intentionally deploy a metaphor politically सोच के, to not manipulate but to drive home a certain worldview. And leaders might be doing that, who knows, कि मैं बहुत ही carefully metaphor मैं choose कर रहा हूँ ताकि उसकी politics मैं चाहता हूँ मेरी politics उस metaphor में embedded है. Or the other is a collective wondering, where you allow the metaphor to find us, saying we're collectively wondering who we are, and then something arrives with freshness, right? And I'm wondering, like, as change practitioners, are those both legitimate, or is the second one a more holier, cleaner way? Let the metaphor emerge and then let's play with it. I don't know, I'm curious about.
I don't know the right answer, but I think I liked that what you used the word collectivize ना, पहले collectivize the. I think जब हम साथ में करते हैं तो उसका वो process शायद faster और होता है, because like these days I mean, that is also okay. Like if I have, for example, as change practitioner, we have done that as a process also early times, that we go through data, like you have interviews and you're meeting people. So already I remember in one factory, maybe I'll give an example. So in one factory there was a union issue. There was a union strike, and they had and because of which the performance came down and all that was going on, and it was also taken as the management was hurt, particularly the owner, because he really was celebrating that he managed not to have any strike, and the owner of the factory is second generation. So he wanted to break away from father's plant where there were many strikes, and he created a Japanese system where there's no strike, and then there is a strike after 10 years, and he's deeply hurt. So there was a shame around it. So they met me in secret, almost in the evening after 8 p.m. Don't tell anyone. So I went and did interviews on both sides, and as I was talking to people, somewhere this words were flowing, right? बच्चों की तरह पाला है, छोड़ दिया हम उनको इतना, तो so father son, that is going on. And as I'm writing notes, kabhi I have taken up those notes, or I have made something, then the father and son there, and that metaphor of father son was living through me. Now also it was alive in my life at that moment. So
Interesting.
I'm noticing that, and then at one stage, I'm sitting and talking to. Just occurs to me, if, the son has found a girlfriend, and the father-in-law is supporting the son, and the father is totally lost. So I had a narrative, little bit. Now that is a very old narrative of father-son conflicts and father-son breaking free. It's a bit of a Iron John also, that love makes you break that, and all that stuff was coming. So I said, so when we met, I said, okay, before I present the data, when I met everyone, I want to talk about a story, and here's a story, and I had sketched that story on the board.
Wow.
And I made when I was sketching, I thought, अरे ये यहाँ पे कौन है? मैंने maybe यहाँ पे mother है, तो मैंने एक mother जैसा sketch बनाया, but पेन खत्म हो गए थे, तो रेड पेन से बनाया white board पे, हो गया इतना, some red in that. And then I say, this is a story, so what do you think? Is this making any sense? If it doesn't, we can just rub it. And then some people say, big silence. So you have to stay in discomfort for long enough to see. And they said, this is our story, but this is different. And then it starts now collectivizing.
Correct.
Then somebody, the plant head says, who is that? I said, I don't know. He said, I know. I said, I know. I said, how does he know? That's the mother. And she is the clue to solve this.
Wow.
And then I turned around, where is the mother? And then where is the Mamta Bhava of this place? And then his own narrative. I've been raised by my mother. My father was not there.
Wow.
And then this whole thing shifts into the feminine suddenly, which I had no clue.
Beautiful.
No clue why it is coming. It was not my metaphor anymore. I had no idea where it is going. But it kind of...
Had a life of its own. Beautiful.
So just to say that I had an agenda, I mean, not an agenda, but it was speaking to me. So I took the risk of making that part of the petal visible. And then as we went there, people started seeing the whole flower in some other way. And the whole thing shifted. And then, and then we enacted, let's enact that. So we had a little theater around it, and of course, as a change agent, at the end of it, you'd then say, okay, so what are the actions? But yeah, I guess you don't need to do that. Action has happened.
वही है उधर से ही, I think.
वो एक एक्सेप्टेंस हो गई है कि हाँ ये, और वो शेम एक्सेप्टेबल हो गया है, फादर का सन के लिए जो शेम है. एंड ये हम यहाँ पे काम कर रहे थे, बट एक और काम कहीं और हो रहा था, बिकॉज वो पैटर्न यहाँ पे भी, पैटर्न फादर सन ओनर्स ऑफ द बिजनेस उनके बीच में भी है. और आई डोंट नो वहां पे वुमेन का क्या रोल है, होगा पक्का, आई डोंट नो.
Fascinating, I think. Yeah. It's almost like, Manish, I sometimes imagine the universe to be made up of these grand archetypes and then a lot of local instances which are like 19-20, like variants of that grand archetype. So if you see across all those variants, you see a father-son, the grand archetype, and the grand disappointment, maybe, because that story itself has repeated millions of times. But then in this particular local instance, you are seeing its own nuance, its own flavor, and maybe even the possibility of disrupting that mega disappointment archetype, saying this time, in this occasion, in this instance, how do we bypass that, right? And the metaphor lets us tap into that archetypical energy and also maybe illustrate the local instance of that larger, I don't know, does that make sense? Like,
you're saying it so beautifully.
And I think it lets us do both. It lets us tap into the ancestral, historical, but also illuminate the specific at the same time. तो हम दोनों के साथ simultaneously खेल पाते हैं.
Wow, so beautifully said.
वो metaphor, I feel, वो दोनों को जोड़ देता है. The transpersonal and the very personal local. I think there is something there.
So well said, yeah. Have you experienced this kind of phenomena anywhere, any of your story, any?
I was talking to, आप जब शेयर कर रहे थे तो मुझे भी एक कहानी ही याद आई, क्योंकि मैं हमारे एक एल्डर से, मोहन जी से बात कर रहा था कि ब्लू रिबन का काम ज्यादा लोग रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करते, ऐसा मुझे लगता है, गिवन हाउ ग्रेट our work is or how awesome it is, and I just feel like we are not appreciated enough, or more, I wish more people would appreciate us. And also he said के एक कहानी अकबर बीरबल की कहानी वो कह रहे थे कि एक बहरूपिया होता है, बहरूपिया जो अलग अलग रूप लेता है, और वो परफॉर्म करता है, बहुत हिट बहरूपिया होता है, सब जगह सक्सेसफुल, deeply appreciated and all. So he comes to Akbar's court and he this time is playing as a बैल बन के, वो बैल बन रहा होता है।
हाँ
तो इतना अच्छा बैल बनता है कि सब लोग चेयर वेयर कर रहे हैं, तो और सब लोग पैसे वैसे डाल रहे हैं एंड ऑल, पर बीरबल पैसे नहीं डाल रहा है। तो अकबर बीरबल को बोलता है कि तुम क्यों इतना अप्रिशिएट नहीं कर रहे, तुम तो वो बोलता है कि तो बीरबल बोलता है कि जस्ट होल्ड ऑन, और बीरबल एक कंकर मारता है उसे पीछे।
हाँ
उस तो जब वो कंकर लगता है, तो जैसे बैल को जब एक्चुअल कंकर लगता है तो वो थरथर आता है,
हाँ
तो ये बहरूपिया भी थरथर आता है।
हाँ
इतना उसका इज दैट मच इन इंटेग्रिटी विथ हिज वर्क।
हाँ
So then Birbal says, "Ab मैं now I'll give him the money." So the performance ends and the Behrupiya says that all that was fine. ये सबका cheering wearing, but ये जो बिरबल का दिया हुआ ₹1, that is my reward. Because that is coming from somebody who deeply understands what this art is and has truly examined it, right? And he left it at that. But that said everything, right? That said everything about appreciation, real, fake, parak. Like it said so much in that one kind of story, right? It just, for me, it just rested me. I was like, हाँ यार, बात तो सही है। कंकर कौन मार रहा है और उसके सामने हम थरथरा रहा है, वो हमें देख पा रहा है कि भाई ये बस उसको ही तो परख है। So I don't know, something deeply rested in me when I heard it.
This is wisdom, right? This is
Yeah, it's
wisdom coming
totally
from an
wisdom.
elder who, instead of telling you this, ये क्या बोलते हैं, deduced ज्ञान देने की जगह, he takes you in the story so you can find your own self in that.
Yeah. I think that's the richness of it, right? That without being preachy, metaphor just unlocks a door. It's like a key to a world which you can then populate with your own meaning. You can explore one or many people, and kind of play around with. So I somehow feel it's less violent than language, because it's more gentler, right? Like, how do I say? It's almost like आप सिर्फ एक चाबी दे रहे हो रूम की, मेटाफर, और फिर उस चाबी को घुमा के जो खुलता है वो किसी को भी नहीं पता है शायद, या उसमें क्या हो सकता है नहीं पता है. So rather than expounding an entire situation, giving everything, explaining everything, putting it in boxes, charts and everything, a metaphor is a much gentler invitation into kind of the unknown, right? And the risk of populating it.
Yes.
And then like a more loving way of, it's a more democratic, collective, loving way than using language and boxes and charts, which also have their place, but not the same gentleness as a metaphor. Right? That's what was coming to me.
So beautiful, yeah. And as you were saying, also there is a humility, I feel, like Mohan ji ना, उनकी इसमें ह्यूमिलिटी है कि ठीक है, मेरे पास इतना एक्सपीरियंस है, मैं तुम्हें एग्जैक्टली बता सकता हूँ तुम्हारी प्रॉब्लम क्या है, तुम ये करो. He's saying that I really don't know your world totally, but let me bring you something that has helped me, and maybe you can find yourself. And it's a choice is up to you how much you take, what you take or not take, and how you engage. He invited you into his world of inspiration, then offering you something. And I think ये चीज ना मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी just now what you shared from that there's I think एक stuck ये हो सकता है as a change makers, change facilitators, कि हमने जैसे एक होता है व्हाट्सएप पे बहुत सुंदर स्टोरीज आती हैं, राइट, कई बार, और उसके आखिरी 4 लाइन में बोल्ड इटैलिक में उसका मीनिंग बताया जाता है. That kills it, right? I think as facilitator we also are obsessed with helping the world and actually driving home the meaning. वो जो उसके बाद में हम अनकंफर्टेबल होते हैं, यार ये तो कुछ और ही मीनिंग लेके जा रहा है, ये तो ये लेके जा रहा है कि बैल बनना है, तो ये क्या लेके जा रहा है. बट आई थिंक दैट रेस्टिंग, दैट आपने इन्विटेशन किया, आपका काम द्वारपाल का है. अंदर लाए इस कहानी की दुनिया में, इस मेटाफोर की दुनिया में, एंड देन लेट इट पिक from there. And I think this is a work of art also, right? It's a storytelling. What Mohanji was an artist who brought a story to you, and then you find yourself in that. So I think a bit of that humility is the key, I think. इसलिए letting it surprise you also, क्योंकि इसमें ह्यूमिलिटी ये भी कि मुझे नहीं एग्जैक्टली पता नहीं चल रहा, लेकिन ये पैटर्न पकड़ में आया है, इसके अराउंड ये है. कई बार तो सबसे बढ़िया है कि वहीं पे डिस्कवर हो जाए. Those processes also there, right? You help people make art, and you look at art, or we do gestures, and then we look at the gestures, and something opens up for you. And then the conversation and then meaning making and whatever, but delay the meaning making actually.
Interesting.
Mind
Explore.
metaphors delay the meaning making, right? You're waiting. You don't know Birbal kya karega uska, and then it kind of reveals something. So उसमें वो ह्यूमिलिटी भी की ये पार्ट मुझे पता है, मैंने खोल दिया, लेकिन आगे आप इसमें क्या क्या ला सकते हो वो हमें खुद डिस्कवर करना. आई डोंट नो एज अ चेंज मेकर, आई हैव नॉट डायरेक्शन पर से, बट a door.
And you can revisit it over and over again, right? Like as I was telling you this story and as you were exploring, I realized that ये बहरूपिया उस अप्रिसिएशन में इतना बह नहीं गया कि उसको कंकर रियलाइज ही नहीं हुआ या वो आउट ऑफ कैरेक्टर चला गया और कंकर से इरिटेट हुआ. वो इतना इंटेग्रिटी में था कि जब बिरबल का कंकर लगा तो वो बैल जैसे थरथराता है, एग्जैक्टली ही रिमेम्बर टू थरथराओ. He was so one with it and not lost in the praise. So suddenly like a new layer got revealed to me about the same story, right? कि वो praise उसके सिर पे नहीं चढ़ा है, वो integrity में बैल बना हुआ है ना, और जिसने उसको परखा सचमुच उस subtle lens पे. So yeah, so I think that it's such a rich world, right? A world of metaphors and yeah. We're in a world where everybody wants to be the evangelist, the person who brought the change, and especially change facilitators, OD professionals हो या social workers हो, वो तो मतलब यार हमने बदला है. So I think that energy, and I think metaphors in some ways are much gentler, that you let go of your agenda-ness and lean into the unknown. Like even with you, I have seen your comfort and your willingness to lean into unknown territory is like immense, because you're just able to go with a sense of curiosity and trust, you know. And I think ये capacity है जो धीरे-धीरे, both as an artist, I'm sure it's the same thing. You lean into something unknown and see what got revealed, what got.
ये बहुत अच्छी बात है. आई वॉज अटेंडिंग कहानी की कक्षा हिमालयन राइटिंग रिट्रीट पे अभी रिसेंटली बाय दिव्य प्रकाश दुबे. तो मैं भी हिंदी को मैंने बोला चलो जाके देखते हैं क्या है थोड़ा इसको. तो आई रियलाइज कि मैं भाषा के मामले में ना अंग्रेजी सीख पाया और हिंदी से भी दूर हो गया. तो बट इट वाज इंटरेस्टिंग एंड ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट स्टोरीज. इफ यू नो द एंड देन दैट्स नॉट स्टोरी. वो कहानी नहीं है, किस्सा है. वाह, पता है कि क्या होने वाला है तो फिर क्यों लिख रहे हो?
ब्यूटीफुल.
पता नहीं है किधर फिरकी मारेगा ये कैरेक्टर, और आप चल रहे हो उस कैरेक्टर के साथ, आप साथ चल रहे हो उसके, आप ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हो, आप उसके रिलेशनशिप देख रहे हो, और कई बार थोड़ा आगे का पता चल जाता है कि हाँ लगता है ये होने वाला है. दैट इज वन वे. एंड अदर पैराडॉक्सिकली आल्सो सेड कि एंड तो सबको पता है. इट इज वेरी पैराडॉक्सिकल. इसे एंड तो सबको पता है कि भाई दिल वाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएंगे में, वो इवेंचुअली हीरो को दुल्हन तो मिलेगी, ये तो मिलना है, लेकिन हमें ये नहीं पता वो रास्ता क्या लेगा. तो आई थिंक इट इज अबाउट मे बी एंड इज कि इवेंचुअली ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस विल go there and eventually we all will have a healed world. That is the meta end we are walking. Eventually we all will figure out that this is all Maya. बहरूपी हैं हम. Eventually figure out हो जाएगा, लेकिन वो एंड शायद हमें एहसास है उसका. लेकिन द जर्नी की जो वंडर है, जो डिस्कवरी है, वो कैरेक्टर के साथ चलना, वो डिस्कवर करना, वो उसके अंदर खुद को देखना, वो बहुत पावरफुल है. I think
ब्यूटीफुल डिस्क्रिप्शन यार, ये कहानी और किस्सा. इवन जब हम चेंज करने जा रहे हैं तो वो एंड को पकड़ के उसको किस्सा जितना जल्दी खत्म हो जाए और उसको टाई डाउन करो और डिलीवरेबल दे दो, वर्सेस टू फॉलो द स्टोरी ऑफ अ जर्नी एंड सी व्हाट इट अनकवर्स, राइट, एंड अलाउ इट टू go wherever it goes in the journey. And I totally cannot resist a plugin here, which is it's more a plugin for Wisdom Tree's clients than Wisdom Tree.
Yeah.
Because I think we're blessed to have people who walk long term with us as clients, as partners, और वो हमें ले जाने देते हैं. हम साथ में उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को बनना क्या है, उसकी जगह है, you know, इतना टाइट नहीं है कि भाई खत्म करके ठक करो. We're able to journey with our partner orgs, and that's the beauty of that's what gives us a lot of energy about the work, right? An unfolding mystery of, like, there's a loose intent, there's a loose direction, like you said, there's a meta ending, everything will get better, but what's getting revealed is sensed, right? And I think it's yeah. So that's that mystery. I think there's something about human beings कि we love that the freshness, the mystery, the unknown intrigues us. ना अगर पूरा ही पूरा set है तो एकदम ही boring हो जाता है.
नहीं सही बात है और आई थिंक द wisdom tree itself is a powerful metaphor, right?
True. Wisdom tree is a
very archetypal, has been there for generations in a way and yet very fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think human beings ko there is something about us, right? Like I remember in one of these workshops, somebody said, that the cat sat on the mat is not a story, but a cat sat on the dog's mat is a story. Because that grips us. There's something about being human, I think, that metaphors are so closely linked to, because there's something in us that just doesn't feel satisfied with a flat description of reality. There's just some soul में एक भूख है और मुझे लग रहा है वो भूख उस रियलिटी के और गहरे लेयर की है जो मेटाफर हमें जहां तक पहुंचाता है और वो आर्टिस्ट भी वो भूख मिटाता है दूसरों के लिए खुद के लिए एंड मेटावर्स आल्सो टेक अस टू दैट डीपर प्लेस आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर I'm reaching with this conversation, right? That there is that hunger in each of us to see those layers of life, not see it as a flat, two-dimensional, predictable, mechanical world, right? I think something like that. That's where I'm left with as what the metaphor lets us do: become children again and open and play in a new world.
Yeah, that's true. They create their worlds. I think it's a sense making process ना वो भी जैसे मेरे बेटे के worlds हैं कुछ worlds हैं उसके और वो he enters into them, right? So he makes, sometimes we say this way and he says in my world and then he has a name and all which he has contracted not to tell anywhere. So in his world it's different, right? So he kind of plays with the rules which, like at this stage rules are coming in, right? School के rules, यहाँ घर के rules, society के rules, तो वो उनके साथ play कर रहा है and it's such a wonderful space to discover. So I think metaphor, imagination, all of that gives us a way to engage and sense make with our world, and it's amazing. Yeah, and it is that curiosity, wonder, into, maybe it is a little bit of entering into another dimension, a bit of that. So it's that joy.
Thank you so much. It was such a joy to explore this world with you. बड़ा मजा आया, बड़ा delicious, it was a very, very delicious meal of ideas and thoughts that we had. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Full of learning, full of reflection. I'm going to process it, and so grateful to Wisdom Tree to कि पेड़ के नीचे आप ऐसी बैठक बैठा रहे हो, so that's really beautiful. Thank you.